Hi.
Hey.
Well, hey.
Hey.
Look at this.
Hi. Yeah. Hi.
There's Yuri. Julie, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How was your New Year's? Oh, I know how your New Year's was. I saw you out paddling around.
Yeah, exactly. No, New Year's was good as well. Quiet.
You weren't out doing anything exciting on New Year's Eve?
No, we went on a trip to Revelstoke, so we came back on the 31st.
Oh, were you downhill skiing at Revelstoke?
No, we hiked up to a hut on Mount Revelstoke and stayed there overnight. It was really nice.
That sounds fantastic. Now, I'm just going to adjust the audio here and see how this works out. If I put this in here, then Barb can hear people talking. Hopefully she doesn't hear me. Why don't you say something?
Hello.
Hey.
I'm here too.
Okay.
We were thinking that we would put Barb on her own computer at the other end of the room. But it sounds like I'm not actually coming out the speakers, which is perfect.
Yeah. Oh.
So I can hear me, not at all, and I can hear the other people talking. That works well. They can hear you because you get picked up by my microphone.
Great.
I think the audio is much clearer if I use the mic than if I use the little mic in the computer. So we'll go with this and see how it works.
Yeah, it works fine from here anyways.
Okay, so I think we have a few more people joining us. Whoop. Is that somebody chiming in? And I am recording. And if there's banging going on in the background, what you can do is you can, in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a mute button.
Oh, yeah.
And you can mute yourself. And then if you want to talk, you have to remember to unmute yourself. And if you see everybody waving like this, that means that you're talking and muted at the same time.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it was banging going on in Yuri's background. There you go.
I see.
His cats are taking apart the kitchen while he's... All right, so I am going to... Yeah, there's my document. All right. So the catch with this system, I'm using a free version of Zoom. So it's got all the regular features, but the maximum length for our conference is 40 minutes. So after 40 minutes, it's just going to quit. And you just have to sign back in again.
Okay.
And then it'll start right back up. So just follow the same link. And I think we can probably get through 2 sessions of 40 minutes and we should be done. Or we'll be exhausted, one or the other.
Or hungry.
Or hungry, yeah. And I'll give folks another minute. I'm going to try one more thing. Let's see.
Can you all see me?
Oh, yeah. Hi. I didn't know you were there. Oh, you know what? There's, oh, yes. And Colin's coming on too. He's muted. There's Kelsey. Look at this. Everybody's there. So there's probably some way. Oh, there you go. There, in the top right corner, there's something called Gallery View. And you get to see everybody who's logged on. Colin is modest. I think he's not turning on his camera.
He's elusive. He's an elusive creature.
I thought you said he's a loser. That seems kind of harsh. Okay, and just for maximum confusion here, I'm going to try and sign on again. Pourquoi? Okay, so I should, oh yeah, there we go. So we're in there twice. The reason I'm doing this is that there are a couple of components of Wild Apricot that are available on your mobile, and I can show them to you. I think I can make myself the presenter.
I think you already are.
No, I can make my other phone, my login, Robert Holly's mobile. I can make that the host. Well, let's just try it for a second.
Hey, Kelsey.
So let's see. Share screen. Okay, there you go. Now everyone sees what's on my phone. Look at that.
Wow.
Okay, so this is going to work. So I'll stop sharing. And then I will make you, I'll have to make myself the presenter again. Gosh, I wonder how I do that. I may have worked too, oh, there we go. Hide self view, audio, rename. Oh. Interesting. Should have tried this last. Interesting. I don't see how to make me the presenter again. All right, well, let's try this.
Oh. Do you have, on the bottom menu bar, do you have a share icon?
Yes, and I'm just about to, let's see, what do I want to share? I want to share this screen.
Yep.
So what do you see?
I see an Apricot training line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, let's do it.
Rob, can I ask you one favor?
Yes.
Is that your meeting or is that mine? Oh, no, sorry, mine. Forget it.
What happened?
Nothing. I couldn't tell if something was on my screen or yours, but I think.
Yeah, it does get a little confusing. So I'm going to do one more thing by way of startup here. I'm going to find that same document. I'm going to get it up here where I can see it. All right, so we've got an excellent group this time. I think this is the biggest training session we've ever done, but it's still small enough that you can interrupt at any time and ask questions. I think the most important thing to remember is you're not going to learn it all in this one session. So don't try to absorb every single detail, particularly when we get into event management, because it can get a little bit complicated. But feel free to call one of the power users if you're going to do something for the first time or if you get stuck. I would say the power users are probably me and Patty. Who else is a power user?
Kevin.
And Kevin, yeah. Kevin knows tons about membership. Patty knows tons about everything, and he was involved in the initial setup, and I was involved in the initial setup as well. So we're probably one of us three. Just give us a call, send us a text, and we'll be happy to help you. So the way that Wild Apricot came about, we used to run everything on one computer, the one that's in the club room, on Microsoft Access, a single user application. So any data entry had to pretty much be done in the club room. We kind of fudged it so you could log in from outside, but it was horrible to use. The system had no features or functions. All the doors worked on keys that we had to cut and hand out. And all the membership stuff was done manually. So people had to show up with checks, and we'd take the checks and we'd sign them up, give them keys. And after the initial signups in the spring, it was impossible to join the club because you had to find somebody from the executive in order to join, but nobody was ever around. Like obviously we don't have anybody that sits down at Jericho. So this has been a real godsend. And this Wild Apricot's based in the cloud. So I think it's hosted in Toronto, but it doesn't really matter. And I think the company that developed it is in Toronto, but they recently got purchased. But it just works. It's all in the cloud. You can access it from everywhere. And it's one of the best membership systems that anybody can find. We did a search, found it, and we did a work party to implement it. We had one person from each fleet, and from basically the whole executive sitting around the big table in the Jericho Lounge, and we built the system in a day. We all worked on different bits of it, and it looked pretty rocky when we first created it because it's our website as well. But it was still miles ahead of what we had before. And the nice thing is that we can manage it ourselves, so we don't need a programmer, with some exceptions, to keep the thing running. So it's been really, really good, and we're mostly pretty pleased with it. It's got a lot of features, so it's a tad complicated, but once you get the hang of it, and some things seem archaic. I mean, there's much better software that's been developed since then. Technology's changed a lot, but there's still, as far as we know, nothing that does all the stuff that Wild Apricot does. So I'm going to start out by giving you some context where it all fits. So their Wild Apricot is over here in this box off to the side, and it's our membership management system and our record of training primarily. So if somebody's ever been a member, at least within the last decade, we have their training record maintained in the system against their profile. They may be an inactive member. They may have been not active for years. We still have their training. And the club runs checkouts kind of like the trades. Once you're a carpenter for life. It's not like you have to go back to carpenter school or your ticket expires. And it's sort of the same with our checkouts. Once you've been checked out on kayaks, you're checked out on kayaks for life. Now, most people are smart enough to know that they've forgotten everything, or they've, it's been so long since they've been on the water. But we have the records there. And if somebody wants to, if they've been sailing somewhere else and then they come back 10 years later, boom, they're checked out on all the same boats. We've got new boats they'll need to check out on, but the records are there. So the way that the system fits into everything else, the logbook system that people see in the club room is a separate application. It's also in the cloud. That was custom developed by Oliver to do exactly what we want. And when you, as a coach or a fleet captain, if you check somebody out and you say, okay, they're cleared to use kayaks, you enter that right in the logbook system. You can either do it in one of the club rooms, or you can do it from home. There's admin access, an extra password. And what happens, in addition to updating the logbook, so the next time you come in, you can say, I can sign out kayaks. It also sends a message in the background to Wild Apricot, and it puts that on your permanent training record. So that's a good thing. And then, somebody can look in their record and they can see what they're checked out for. They don't have to go back to the logbook. And there's a flow that goes the other way too. When you join the club, you are a member in one or more fleets, and your fleet membership information, plus the fact that you've joined, so your identity and the fleets that you're members in, go into the logbook system. So that the next time you sign on to the logbook system, number one, your name's there. Number two, any fleets that you're cleared to use, you will see in the logbook system. So it's this two-way flow back and forth. And there is also a link between Wild Apricot and the Jericho, our door access system. So if you join the club and you're active, your card, once you put in the number, will automatically open the main club room door. Everybody gets into the main club room. If you're a member of kayaking or stand-up paddling or rowing, your card will also open the kayak shed down at the other end. And if you're a member of windsurfing, it'll also open the can. So there's this miraculous sort of one-way update. And this is a custom thing that Oliver built, and it goes through our database once in a while. I think it does it every night every night. Yeah, Barb gets little messages that say it's been working. So you join, you pay, your membership's active, you get a Jericho card, you take the 4-digit number off the end of the card and you key it into your membership profile, and then it sends all that stuff down to our door access system, which is run off that little computer in the main club room. And it in turn updates all the doors. So there doesn't have to be a full-time link there. The door system will still run when the links are down. And the next time you come in with your Jericho card and you put it up against the door, that door will open. So that's pretty cool too. So that means no more keys for us. And the third important link is between our system and the Jericho membership system. Now, I don't know exactly, is it sending us stuff or are we looking at their database? I think the arrow actually goes the other way around. We take a peek at their database. So just before we let somebody give them door privileges, we say, okay, we've got a Jericho card here. Let's take a look at the Jericho system and see if their membership is current. So if they let their Jericho membership expire, then none of our club doors will open for them. So this is an agreement we had with Jericho. We used to have to collect Jericho membership fees on their behalf and remit them, and we had this big reconciliation every year, who's paid, who's updated. Some people buy them directly from Jericho, some people bought them from us, and we'd have to give Jericho the money. We said, okay, we're out of that business. You guys sell memberships, and we promise that we won't open our doors unless their Jericho membership is current. So number one, they have to have a Jericho card, and number two, the Jericho membership has to be in good standing. So because the rule is to be a member of one of the clubs, UBC, Locarno, etc., you also have to be a member of Jericho. So once we got that working, it really simplified our life, because we said, Jericho, you do the Jericho business, sign all your waivers and stuff like that, and we'll just take care of things on our end. So any questions on that so far? It's pretty complicated. It's taken a while for it to get to this stage, but the nice thing is it's all kind of working. And it seems to be, on the whole, pretty reliable. And especially now that we've got Colin, who's looking at both ends. Colin is responsible for this, and he's also responsible for all this technology. So if something goes wrong, he's got both ends of the puzzle. It used to be that, you know, we were always kind of chasing the problem between us and Jericho. The door access system, unfortunately, is a custom developed thing. And I think the program that controls it is off the shelf, but all the hardware was custom built. So we put it in for like a third or a quarter of the cost of what it would cost us commercially. But one day it's going to die, and I don't know what we're going to do then. We just have to replace it with a commercial one, and there'll be a little bit of IT work to get them integrated again. But for the time being, touch wood, it's been very reliable, and things just go ticking along. So what we want to mainly do today is look at the wild apricot part of it. Questions or comments? So I'm going to scoot over to wild apricot. Now here's our, first actually, before I do that, I want to cover off some real basics terminology. So member status, as a member, you can be active, you can be lapsed, or you can be a former member. We don't use this anymore, but we used to have problems with when people renewed after they were lapsed. They've changed the way it works, so we don't need former members anymore. So you're either active or you're lapsed. And if you're lapsed, you can just pick up and join again, and your record is renewed. And the doors will only open if your membership is active. There's a bunch of different membership levels as well. The term level is something that comes with wild apricot. That's their version of looking at it. So we might call these membership types, but they call them levels. So most people are regular members. There's an increasingly large number of family members, because you get a discount on additional family members. So there's another level, which is additional member. And the way it works is, once you're a member of a family, you don't have to pay the basic fee again. You just join the fleets. There's a youth member. They get a discount on the membership from regular rates, and they can be between 15 and 19. They have to get their parents to sign. You can be a fleet captain, which means you get your basic membership sponsored. And you can be an executive, which means you get your whole membership sponsored. You can also be an instructor. And you're not really a member. You don't have member privileges per se as an instructor. But our deal is that instructors get to use the fleet that they teach on. They don't have, and they still have to be a Jericho member. The weird anomaly in here is that executives don't need to be a member of a fleet. They're the only ones. They're automatically, they have access to all fleets. And that's these rules are programmed into this little link here. So if you're an executive member and you're active, all doors open for you. And that's as much for convenience as anything else, because, you know, if somebody's stuck in the windsurfing can and you happen to be on site, your card better open that door. Or if a member's having trouble and they need to get into the level 3 windsurfing gear, you know, you make sure that they're allowed to do that, and then you open the door for them. So our cards open all doors. We still have to have checkouts in order to use the fleets, but at least the doors are open. And then the third thing I wanted to talk about is fleets. And a fleet, for fleets, you can have no fleets selected, although that's not the norm. Normally you'd select one fleet or many fleets. And as you select these things, as you pick a membership level and you pick fleets, that determines how much you pay. So when you join the club, it has some calculations and it figures out, based on your selections, how much to bill you for. The last option is all fleets. It wasn't the ideal way to do this, but this is our compromise. We had to figure out a way of kind of separating this and making it work. So your all fleets, yes or no. If you select no for all fleets, then you have to pick one of these. If you select all fleets, you just leave these blank, all the doors open for you, and you pay $220, something like that, for a fleet fee. So that determines basically how doors open for members, and it kind of guides the access they get to boats. And then we start to get into Wild Apricot. So I'm going to pop over to the Wild Apricot software. This is the view that you're used to, the home page. As an exec member, you now should see this little link up here in the corner called Admin View. And if you click on that, a whole different world opens up for you. So let's walk through it quickly. I think you usually, the normal view when you go to Admin View is you get the dashboard. And this just gets you some high-level statistics. Shows you at a high level how many members are around. This doesn't really tell you much because it doesn't tell you whether they're active or expired. There's some stats on who's been accessing the system. Yeah, question from Barb?
Yes, just as a question or a comment, you have to be logged on as your executive membership. So I log on as membership at ClubLocarno.com. And I got the password from Kevin to give me that access and access to the admin's view of Wild Apricot. So one of the things that new board members have to do, we have to go in and we have to change your email in the membership database, and then you need to get the password from the previous executive member. Like
yeah, I don't know that you need the password.
Or I can update your password for you.
But here I am in my profile now, and this is the regular login. Let's see.
So you have email.
There's my email address there. So if you, before you're, this is my old email here. What you can do if you're doing this yourself, take your current email, put it down there, put your club email in there, and then you're done. Your password will stay the same, but you'll have to use that new email to log into your account. The main reason you want to do this is that when you're sending and receiving emails from the website, that's the return address. So if you're using your personal one, people will be hounding you for several years after you leave the executive, because they'll be, they think that, oh yeah, if you want to learn something about sailing lessons, you send it to robert.holly@telus.net. If you use this email, then as and when you change the executive position, that will go with the person who takes your old job, and they'll inherit all the emails, and it's really good for continuity. Yeah, no worries. So there's a dashboard. I don't look at this very often. There are obviously some things that are interesting. It's more interesting from an administrative standpoint. You can see who's most active on the system, who logs in the most, which pages have the most activity or when they've been updated. But as I say, I don't look at that much. Contacts, I look at a lot. This is my main go-to for finding people that are members of the club. And there's a difference between contacts and members. If you let your membership lapse, you're still a contact. If you've signed up as a member of the public for anything, and we were teaching rowing lessons to the public for a while, we had people signing up as volunteers, we had people signing up for Discover Locarno days. Those people put in a minimal amount of information, name, address, email, stuff like that. They become a contact. So everyone's in here to search. So this one here, that's Jericho. John Adair, looks like he's never been a member. He's just a regular old contact. But all of our members, all the people we've ever dealt with, all kind of look the same from this point. And we'll come back to some of the power of this site later on. Next.
Is that the site that it says, if you want to volunteer, what would you do?
Yeah, that's kind of, it's in there. It's not, it's really, that's only on the member part of the database. If somebody's a member, we require them to give us a lot more information, including their volunteer preferences. So you would have to look at a member profile to see that, and that's coming up in about 2 clicks. What a good question. But if you just want to contact people and send out email, I always go to contacts. That's where all my favorite searches are. Here's the website, and this is the website from a different perspective. This is from the perspective of maintenance. So I can go to a web page. There's the UFOs landed page. I can edit that page, and I can make changes to it. So if I see it, I mean, the best example is if you see a typo, or today I was looking at a page for, where is that? Member resources. There's a, nope, that wasn't it. Join renew. Boom. There's a page called How It All Works. And we did this a few years ago because there's all these, there's a lot to joining the club, and there are a lot of questions. This little page is meant to answer all of your questions, at least at a high level, every topic you can think of. But, we were looking at this part today, and we thought, hey, we need more detail in here. So I just pressed the button. I added a couple of sentences, saved the page, boom, it's live on our website. And as an executive member, you have access to some part of this. So Yuri and I have access to sailing. Kevin has access to rowing. Emily has access to kayaking, and so on. And I don't know exactly what pieces the rest of you have access to, but it's pretty easy to find that out. And the idea is, you don't necessarily want people editing the whole website, unless, if you're in marketing. I think the marketing person had access to everything because they did some advanced work on the look and feel of the website, changed the templates, and made the pages look more consistent. One of the problems with our work party was that we all worked independently. So the windsurfing pages really didn't look anything like the sailing pages, and they were totally different from the kayaking pages. So we had the basic information there, but windsurfing thought, we don't need more than one page. So they had one long page that went for, you scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. Anyway, so that's the website. And there are, in addition to just static information, there are pages that do stuff. And I'm just trying to find one that actually does stuff. I can't find an example. Sailing lesson schedule. Okay, here we go. Some of the pages get quite tricky. Oh, you can't really see much. Upcoming events. This says no lesson schedule at this time. This is a box that automatically lists all of the sailing lessons. They call it widgets. There are these smart little things you can stick into your web page, and some of them let you join, and some of them work on calendar, and there's some pages that host blogs. So there's some functionality in behind it. If I switch to the calendar view for this page, maybe a calendar appears. There we go. So this whole thing is a kind of a smart widget that I just pasted into this website. And I said, put a calendar in here, but only show sailing events. So it's like a subset of the things going on in the club. So there are those, and there's quite a lot to the website. Most of it's working pretty well. So I guess most of what you would be doing would be updating explanations, text, approaches, descriptions of checkouts. A lot of it will happen automatically. And if you want to make a big change, probably need to do some planning and get some of the power users involved.
Like if you wanted to make an event, for example.
Oh yeah, okay, events are coming up. They're separate. Okay. And that, it turns out, nice segue, is the next thing. This is a whole separate part of Wild Apricot. Events. And events they're amazing things. We set up all of our lessons as events. We set up all of our parties as events. We set up all of our checkouts as events. So every fleet manager needs to be, or fleet director needs to be pretty good at managing events. And if you do it right, people can sign up for them automatically. They can pay if there are fees involved, for example, like lessons. They can, the events will automatically appear on the calendars in the right places. They'll give you lists of participants, and they appear as a permanent record. There we go. We're gonna get kicked off in 10 minutes. So hang on to your mouse and be ready to click back in again when we get booted off. So we'll stay with the free package for now. And events, they can be quite complicated. Best practice for events is to start by copying the same event from last year and then just making incremental changes. Setting one up from zero can sometimes be daunting. And we'll go through these in more detail later on. I'm just doing the once over. The members section here, this gives you an executive overview of where we stand on members. This shows you we've got a total of 249 active members. That's the really important thing. You don't really care whether members are overdue or elapsed. They're not active. So these are the ones that are critical. And we have 17 executive. We have quite a large number of family and additional members. So total, there's about 75 people that have gone the family route, 12 fleet captains, 130 regular members, and then a few people that are sponsored, a few instructors. So that's the big overview. There are also a whole ton of functions under member here. Most of these we don't worry about. There's a search and select function, which is very much like contacts, but because members are a subset of contacts, I can do all the same things. If I'm searching for people, I can do all the same things under contacts just by saying, okay, one of the search criteria is that their member status is active. Boom. And that just knocks out everybody who's not a current active member. So I never use this, literally never. There's saved searches. A lot of this stuff is configuration. If we're changing the way we use the system, we might add a different membership level. If we're changing our rates, this is where we'd go, and there's the price for family membership. So if we change our rates, somebody, it'd be the membership director, Barb, will go in here and we'll change that. And then the next person that joins will see the new rate on their bill. Groups, I don't think we use. Membership fields, this gets complicated. This is how we've set up our system. This is where we define all of the fields that people have to fill in when they join. It defines all of the fields that the executive can fill in. It defines the fields that help control how the system works. So people start out with no door access. Once they finish their online quiz, Barb's responsibility is to change that to enabled. And then, and only then, will their cards start working. So we used to force people to come to an orientation meeting, and we'd explain, yes, you have to wear a life jacket. No, you can't bring your friends every day. You know, you've got limits, all that stuff. Now we do that in a little online test or online tutorial, and Barb gets the results once they do the test, and she enables her door access. If we kick somebody out of the club, we can disable their door access if they've gone out of control. These I have no idea. And this is where your Jericho card member goes. Then there's contact data, and this they're required to sign up. This is the membership data. This stuff comes automatically when they join in. Member profile data. This is stuff that we ask them to put in. They can put in a photo. They can put in their interests. There's where their volunteer interests are. And each one of these things, this is the setup. So this explains that volunteer interest, they pick from a checklist. They can pick more than one of these things. And if we came up with a new thing we wanted to track, we just add it on the list here. The next time somebody joined, they'd see a slightly longer list of volunteer interests.
So can I make that mandatory for all current members to redo when they renew their membership?
That's a good question. I think the answer is no. But the way that we get around that, we can make, when you sign up, you can make fields mandatory or optional. But if they've already filled in this field, the system says, oh, well, it's mandatory, but it's already done.
Right.
So what we'd have to do is erase the field and make them fill it in again. And we actually do that. This is getting pretty techy, but it's important to know. Every year we come up with a new field for conditions of membership. So we come up with a new legal agreement, and what we do is we replace this one. So this one just goes away, and the next time, and it's mandatory. So the next time they sign up, it's a rules and terms type field, so they have to agree to it. It's required, and when the next person that logs on will find the 2019-20, maybe that is the one. They'll find that is blank. So they have to go down, read the conditions if they want, and then click into that field. It looks like somebody's already done that. Yeah, So what we do if there was a field that we wanted to refresh, like volunteer interest, what we do is we'd copy and hide that field. We'd put up the new one, and it would be blank. So when somebody renewed, they'd have to update it and fill in their new volunteer interests. And that works well enough. And then in the meantime, we have to know we look in two places. We look in the old field for people that haven't renewed, and in the new field for people that have. So there's member profile. This stuff is interesting because it's stuff that that you might want other people to see. Your interests, for example. There are ways that once people log in, they can share their profiles with other people and make them public. So you can share your photo, you can share your interests, and you can share some of your history and experience. And it's a good way to meet people. The rest of this stuff, sailing, windsurfing, this is all the training records. These are the fields that Wild Apricot gets updated from the logbook system when somebody finishes lessons or finishes a successful checkout. So if we look in somebody's history, we can see, they got windsurfing level 1 in 1992, they got windsurfing level 2 in 1994, and they just learned how to do windsurfing foiling. And these are interesting because if you search, these are all available in searches, so you can look for people who have never been checked out for kayaking, or who have been checked out for surf skis, or who haven't been checked out in kayaking for years, like they have a really old checkout, or maybe have nothing at all in rowing. It's really, really powerful. So these are all, they can be seen by the, in fact, let's go into one. So member access, a member can view it in their own profile. Nobody else has any access to this. So this is personal information, and it's used in all levels. And there's field instructions, do not update. So even though we can go in and change these things, we never do. What we do is we make changes in the craft sign out website, and it updates the fields for us. Yeah, here's the old, so we can see who's signed the waiver when. We just tuck that down to the back. So that's kind of an overview. The rest of this stuff is pretty detailed, and it's setup stuff. There's a section for finances, and this really just gives us a good history of what's been going through somebody's account. You can see it at a high level, so you can see all the invoices, but usually you'll run into this stuff when you're looking at somebody's profile. So you go in through members or through contacts. You can see every invoice they've generated. So each time they renew, the club, the system sends them an invoice and says you owe $350 because you joined the club, plus you joined windsurfing, plus you joined kayaking. And then you can see another invoice where they paid for lessons. You can see another invoice where they get paid for a fee on a trip. You can see all the payments and refunds that have gone through, and you can get lots and lots of history. So this is really, this is the financial profile for somebody. And in addition to being available here for everybody, it's available right down at the individual level. So you can see, all the transactions for one person. Here's a really powerful part of the system. This is the email system. So if you're going to send emails to members or contacts, the best way to send them is through the website, through this function, starting with a compose email button. For a number of reasons. Number one, they come automatically from your club email, so it looks like it's been sent by sailinglessons@clublocarno.com. It goes automatically to the email address on somebody's profile. It comes from the club, so people are used to getting club emails, so they're not going to go into their spam folder. If people reply, they come back to you. It works really, really well. And the bonus, in the log, we have a record of every single email that's ever been sent by the system. So if we have problems and we've been going back and forth with somebody, we can see the history. So we've got less than a minute here. We're going to bomb out of the system, and then take a minute, take a bio break if you need one, and then click on the link and start back up again, and we'll be off to the races.
Thanks, Robert.
I'm not sure. Ah, here we go. Nothing, I can't believe this. Nothing has been sent at all this year. I find that hard to believe.
It's probably because it's January 3rd.
Yeah, you know what? You could be right. Yeah, there you go.